Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Jackie Cation here. You're about to listen to The Dork Forest. You know the websites, dorkforest.com, thedorkforest.com. JackieCation.com has the links to everything. Merch, the new album, my other podcast, videos of me doing stand-up. Dorkforest.com has all the notes and the video that you can watch of this show. Traditionally, I tell you to donate to the Dork Forest, but it is November and December. I ask that you donate to a local food bank because you should. I don't know, you should do it all year, but what the heck? If you are donating to the Dork Forest using the PayPal link that gives every month, you can turn it off and turn it back on. You can do a matching to your food bank and donate to me as well. But all the money that I get from the donations from November and December, I'll give to my local food bank. And so I will get all of that sweet, sweet karma. Other than that, you can buy merch. You can, for Christmas, there's new t-shirts and stuff. But whatever it is, the Dork Forest, super fun, always available. I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting to say, probably Bandcamp, but let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm in my garage. That's right. And returning guest, I think. You've been on before, haven't you, Caitlin Gill?
Yeah, I've dorked out a couple of times.
That's it. We're back. We're talking because you got a new dorkdom, and I want to hear about it because I used to do this very thing, but I did it for a sort of a lateral man, not the man. Because we printed, whatever. It's we'll get into it, but it's screen printing and T-shirts.
Yep.
And art, and you're living in the desert by a national park.
Yeah.
And you have your current album, the last album that you did is called Major. Was that your first album?
That was my first album.
So there you go, you guys. Go to Spotify and look up Major. I helped promote that album. Let me just say
that. You sure did.
And
you kicked off my little tour.
Yeah, exactly. And now if people want to, they can go and check out the T-shirts that you're doing because it's all T-shirts and screen printing now. Because of lockdown, some people learned to play the piano. You got into T-shirts and screen printing.
Yeah, I did.
What's the name of it? Guarantee?
Guarantee Shirts. Guaranteeshirts.com for all your guaranteed T-shirts needs. A bunch of different designs and
awesome.
Guarantee Shirts on all the social stuff. Yeah.
And it will be in the notes, and Guarantee is spelled Guarantee shirts.com.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. I picked a name that I would, as I said, I would fail this test in a spelling bee. This word would eliminate me. And yet the pun on paper and in my mind is perfect. And then someone will go, well, would you spell that website for me? And no, I won't. I'm going to get it wrong. Just sound it out when you're at Google. Google will help you find it.
Google will fix it. Google will fix it just fine.
I should get all the domains around common misspellings of Guarantee Shirts and just redirect them back to my site as a mercy to all my sweet customers who suffer the same way I do.
I got the Dork Forest because in addition to dorkforest.com.
Smart.
And it's if you like a determiner, it's great. But it's a lot. And but what I want to know, see, I used to work in the T-shirt industry back in the day.
What did you do in the T-shirt industry?
Well, from college, we sold. That was how I helped put myself through college with the help of some loans that took too long to pay off.
Oh, of course,
but,
yes.
I sold. My first T-shirt job was selling T-shirts at Wisconsin Badger football games.
Oh, okay,
and they
great.
were all
yeah.
seconds and irregulars.
Yep.
They were all, and they were much cheaper, and they all had slogans like "Fuck 'em Bucky" and "Wisconsin" with Bucky relieving himself behind a tree, and then
Bucky is one of the greatest mascots of all time, and I'm not surprised that the universe of Bucky T-shirts is incredibly wide. I myself had a Bucky tee, and it was conventional. Oh, right, that was the deal. So it just said Bucky. It was a red sweatshirt that just said Bucky in white, but if you wore a jacket right, you could just see Uck. So it really looked like your sweatshirt just said fuck, and I do appreciate that. I appreciate that sincerely. Someone thought about that.
That's funny forever. to a new generation every time. And so that's what I sold during college. And then when I got out of college, I moved to Minneapolis and I worked at a t-shirt. Well, in the summer, a couple of summers during college, I worked at a screen print place and in Minneapolis.
Can you see me rubbing my hands? I'm rubbing my hands together.
Yeah, that's it. And while listening to Husker Du practice, because they were at the next building over in the dodgy neighborhood that is now fully gentrified.
Of course.
But I didn't do any of the screen printing because that was a learned skill. I did a lot of folding of T-shirts.
Oh, I fold so many T-shirts with different strategies for different purposes, for storage, for shipping. I know a lot more about folding than I anticipated. Most of this is cleaning. I'm going to tell there's a lot to talk about in terms of how to do screen printing or anything related to shirts, but especially screen printing. Whatever I say, multiply it by 3 in terms of time commitment for cleanup. It's just cleaning. It's all cleaning.
That is
and
fascinating.
Folding and cleaning.
Yeah. Right. Well, here's the weird thing. So I understand that there's been leaps and bounds in the screen printing industry where they're printing shirts using laser printers instead of screens.
Oh, I mean, what you can do with T-shirts, the way that apparel customizers are out there doing stuff is insane. There are, of course, printers that you just literally stick a T-shirt in and they print images direct on the garment, direct garment printers. Screen printing on an industrial scale, I don't even want to know. There were satellites most definitely involved. I feel like you need a full suit somehow, gloves and mask style.
Sure.
The machine talks to you. It makes suggestions. Even on the lower industrial scale, a couple of rungs on the ladder above me where you get into the big spider machines that have 8 to 16 arms for screens and then
you rotate the screens
panel underneath each one, so you can do 8 to, and they're all pneumatic with all the pressures are set computer wise. There's no tinkering with screws and stuff. That stuff blows my mind. I can scoot the camera around. I have a little.
Show me what you got. What are you using?
So I got a cutie rig. Here's my T-shirt platen. This is where the shirt goes. There's glue on here. It's a very gentle adhesive just to hold the shirt super in place. And a little I could throw a screen on there, but this is a little 4-armed screen print machine. So I can have 4 screens at once.
The screen goes in. So the screen goes into where those knobs go, and it holds it.
I have a good one. Yes. So these little arms hold on to the screen where I have burned an image, which is a whole other thing.
I'm going to want to talk about that, yeah.
But we get to this place. Once you get the image you want burned onto your screen, and it looks a little something like this. This is a Garen T-shirts original, my I Love Lil Nas X and I Vote shirt, one of my faves. I clamp it into place here.
It's clearly the yellow screen right now.
Yes, I use yellow screens, yellow, white, pink. There's a couple different colors to use. I like yellow for a couple of reasons, but you bring the arm down, pour some ink in there. I'd have to tape these yellow edges.
Sure.
Because ink can creep through like jerks. There's a few different tapes to use, but I've settled on, surprisingly, the cheapest option. Controversial in the field. Throw down in the comments if you think blue painter's tape is not an appropriate screen printing tool. But I tape fresh every job, so works for me.
Right, as long as it works.
There is another screen printing tape. This stuff is fancy. So fussy. Really hard to tear. You need a knife. I'm out. I went old school. But I flood the screen with ink, and then you grab, I have a few squeegees.
You have a squeegee?
I think mine are off drying, but I have a little squeegee here. This is a squeegee. I have wooden squeegees. They're aluminum or wood-handled squeegees with little rubber wedges on the end that are cut to pretty darn precise angles. And you glide that over the screen. You flood the screen with ink, so I would get the entire image covered with ink. And then in one smooth motion, push across the whole image to release that ink from the screen onto the substrate below, usually for me, a shirt.
Right. And then you know exactly how much ink to pour? That's got to be a learned skill, right?
So you can definitely pour too much or too little. Some screen printers, especially ones with maybe extra coin to spare on a bigger scale, won't pull ink out of the screen. I'll try to save whatever I can from a job.
Yep.
Lots of reasons to, lots of reasons not to. But if you put too much in, So I'm showing an image for my audio listeners of the screen to Jackie, some of which is green and some of which is just the screen itself, yellow. The green part has emulsion on it, which is a goo we can talk about at great length. When that goo is exposed to light, it gets super hard and water resistant, so you can't knock it out of the screen. And these exposed areas are just straight up screen. So if too much ink is sitting on an exposed area of screen, it's just going to drip through or it's going to flood and leave too much ink, maybe even bleed out of the edge of the stencil you've created. So you can definitely have too much ink in the screen, but it's more about where that ink is. Making sure you only have a really thin sheet of ink over your stencil will prevent that kind of flood through.
That
I'm also
makes
kind
sense.
of fussy about the ink I use. Jackie, I was clocking your tea, which is very crisp. You have a black tea with a sharp white image on it. And I bet you can feel that image. It's a beautiful shirt. Pals makes good shirts. It's probably a white Plastisol ink on a dark shirt. The only way you're going to get a good look from an ink is to use the stuff that's based in it's plastic. It's a liquid plastic that becomes hard when you expose it to heat. It's good shit. Almost everybody uses it. I will only... White on black is the most popular. You all want it. You all want white on black. Why won't you love white shirts like I do?
Because we're all slobs. That's why.
Don't worry, Garrett T-shirts fans. I got good news for slobs coming soon. So it'll be a holiday launch, but if you get a Garrett T-shirt, you can replace your Garrett T-shirt for half price. Slob, I want you to wear it. Ruin them. Anyway, so because black and white is so popular, I will use white Plastisol ink, but this stuff is a booger to clean. It is straight up just plastic goo. It hates some cleaners. It's not
great for the environment. It's not the most eco-friendly. Right. But there is supposedly eco-friendly inks, and
so I use water-based inks. Water-based inks are
better. They're much better.
They have an acrylic content, so they are not perfect, but they are way less plasticky. They actually dye the shirt as opposed to rest on top of it. So when you can feel the image on your shirt, like a screen print, when you run your hand across it, when you feel that little raised, rougher area, your shirt does look super crisp, but the feel of that as someone who's making the shirt just appeals to me less. I love these water-based inks. You can't feel them.
They sink in. They just go, it's nice.
I went with, I kept ruining shirts when I was screen printing. I ruined an enormous stack of shirts that I myself wear in public. So I decided to make myself work shirts. And like a psycho, I went with the logo for my company. So I work with my own face on me all day, which I didn't really think about it. I was like, I could send these to clients. What a cute idea. No, I just wear them. I am the one wearing me. But the image on the shirt is just ridiculously soft. The quality is crazy. So I will... Water-based inks are harder to work with. They can dry in the screen. The Plastisol ink never dries. It just never dries. It doesn't change. It's not about water content. I should have thought about
what shirt I was wearing when I got on this call. But
you have a great shirt. It's become so reflexive. I look at every shirt everywhere. In stores, I just touch them like a monster.
Yep.
When I got started making teas, I was using this cutie, if you can see it. It's a white toner printer. I bought this fancy printer because I was worried I couldn't learn how to screen print. I didn't know where. And it's a limited range of colors. Each screen can only print one color at a time. You're only throwing one color ink in. And I thought that might be a limitation. So
and then you gotta line them up. That's why they're on that spinny thing. So sharp with the lining up. That's why it's on that
It's
arm.
a real line-up thing. And the arm is precise. There are so many screws. My adjustment tool is a rubber mallet because everything's so tight. You're wedging like ding, 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 ding,
Right,
like a
trying to
jeweler
make it
with
show.
giant hands. But I got this white toner printer so I could do stuff that has all sorts of colors on it. It prints an underbase of white under an image so that when I do put it on a shirt using these extra fancy transfer things, everything looks really cool and bright, and I can use unlimited colors. So those are awesome. But they, to me, feel like Plastisol Ink. And they last, but like not quite as long as Plastisol Ink. So I love them. I use them all the time for full color images. A bunch of stuff in my shop, I use them. But I'm pulling more toward recreating full color with my forearm screen print by doing CMYK processing, which is how a printer works. So I am become printer, where I work with a piece of art the same way a newspaper would, because it's a little bit how newspapers would print. In the times before. So your printer, if you've replaced its cartridges, you know, you've got those 4 colors, the weird pink, the weird blue, the yellow, and the black. So if you break an image apart into those pictures, usually using halftones, which is taking a solid image and re-representing it as dots, usually, maybe lines, but as dots, I can rebuild a full color image using cyan, yellow, magenta, and black all together, which is a crazy process. Not every image comes easy, but you can do it most of the time. You start working with super, super fine holes in your screens, and it's amazing to see it work and all come together. So from beginning to end with the art, it's a lot of photoshopping. It's a lot of breaking into channels and then turning those channels into bitmaps.
Let's break it. Let's back up about it. You get an image. Let's say you get the image of my new album, Staycation, and it's and you get a Photoshop image. It's done. Right? It's a PSD file. It's whatever kind of file. What kind of file do you like to work in? Do you like a Photoshop
JPEGs
PSD?
are fine, but as soon as I get a JPEG, I want the background to go away. If there's any solid color background, I'm going to ditch it. So you can save a file with transparency as a PNG. I don't know what PNG stands for. Pretty nosy graphics. I don't know. But I do know that when
that's how you know how you do it.
Yes, yeah. You'll find that my level of expertise is capable of doing it. Not always understanding everything that's happening. But the more that I'm breaking into it, the more I get. Like, when I first learned halftones, I learned series of things to click with Photoshop open. And now I'm like, I see it. And I can see them everywhere. Just takes time.
Yeah.
So PNG file will do it.
So you get a file or a PSD, whatever you need, and then how does it get on the screen? How are you burning it onto the screen?
So Photoshop you can tell Photoshop, okay, I'm going to look at this on screens like monitors or phones. So let's work with RGB color, red, green, and blue, which is how screens recreate all the colors we're looking at. And screens are like, electronic screens are so good at it. It's just so seamless and pretty. Those are the colors they use to bring it all together to make everything that we're looking at. Printing, if you intend to print something, you can tell Photoshop, hey, I'm going to need to make this physical. Can I look at it in cyan, yellow, magenta, and black? And it'll change the color mode so you're actually looking at a representation of what your printer is going to do when it gets the image.
As
deeper
layers,
in Photoshop.
or
you get there. Yeah, you're just looking at the regular image, but when you're diving too deep into Photoshop manuals, you'll find the channels tab, and the channels are where you're going to see each color represented individually. So I can turn off all the other colors and just look at, say, the cyan, the blue that's in an image. And that's all I'd see. Once I find all my channels, you separate them. So now I have a file for each color. The thing I need to do is I can't have big solid blocks they all need to blend together. And the way you ask colors to sort of meet up and marry, the way you ask yellow and cyan to become green, part of it is this trick of making a halftone bitmap, which is another fun game you play in Photoshop. Which essentially takes a black and white image, right?
Yep.
Black and white we think has gray in it. Once I knock out the channels individually, they're all black and white. Once they're all alone, they hang out in black and white. But gray is of no use to me. I need gray to get out of town. So once you take a black and white image and are like, okay, close but no cigar, show me the halftones. Halftones are like, cool, I got it. No grays, just dots, black dots that get smaller and smaller the lighter the gray gets. So dark gray, big old black dots. Light gray, little teeny black dots. And our eyes are like gray. Our eyes have been looking at newspapers our whole lives. Newspapers are all printing in black. When you see gray, you're seeing teeny black dots, and your eyes are just telling your brain, hey, I know they're dots, but it's cool. Just fill in gray, please.
Right.
So I get the halftones made. You can make them teeny, you can make them big. I really love working in sort of a comic strip style where the halftones, I feel like I have a piece of work around I could grab. The halftones are sort of visible. If you think about reading like the Sunday Funnies. Yeah. Like where red is always a little weird. You can see the edges of the yellow bleeding, and you can definitely tell green got there by smushing two inks together. Like, I do like appreciating the tactile quality of it, so I'll stray toward making things look like a comic strip too often. But you can get super fine, like newsprint style halftones. So that's what I print out of my printer, black dots. Black dots and blobs that represent where each color needs to be to make the whole picture come out right. Yeah. Then to burn a screen, the next decision you have to make is like how fine like the detail is, because there are different kinds of screens.
Are you just buying chicken wire? Or are you just buying screens, or are you buying them framed like that?
I buy them framed like that. You can get just the frames and the screen material. I'll just embrace it so it knows I care. But that's just a facility I don't have. Once I have like a table to stretch a screen over, I might take that over just to save costs and to repair them in-house, because I'm embracing it gently for a reason. These are my babies. They must be cared for.
They break.
And, they split. This is just the screen. But they have different meshes. So this is a pretty fine mesh screen that I am displaying for Sweet Jackie. It is a 230 mesh screen. They go down way lower. So if you're using Plastisol Ink and it's a big solid image, then go low. You can do one pass, no problem. But if I'm doing super fine detail 4-color work, I need a higher mesh screen. And I'm going to be pushing the squeegee over probably twice to get the right amount of color. And sometimes I'll be drying the shirt a little bit with something called a flash dryer or a hair dryer. If, say, you haven't bought a flash dryer yet.
That was the other thing, is that's when I would fold the shirts. They would go through essentially like a conveyor belt with a dryer, little oven, little pizza oven. They'd get to the other side, and I would pick them up and fold them and then stack, and then put them in boxes.
Yeah, once you screen print, you got a wet shirt. You got a shirt with wet ink on it, and wet ink ain't going to stay there. And ink stays wet longer than you think in different weird ways than you think. So yes, if someday when my shop is giant, I will have that little pizza oven for shirts where you stick a shirt in, image up, and it slides through on a little belt, and it is exposed to the heat element, really even heat element all the way across. And by the time it shoots out the other side to you to fold, the equivalent you in the future, it'll be ready. I have a combo tool that works for a bunch of different stuff, including my white toner printer. This is how my fancy transfers end up looking fancy on my shirt. This is a heat press. It is a giant iron, an all-powerful iron. It is a 16 by 20 inch surface that gets hot up about I use it at about 325 to cure shirts for about 3 minutes. Yeah. It
so 3
clamps down
minutes,
with
clamps.
Precise pressure, and you can change the pressure. This is like...
Are you putting like a parchment paper or something, wax paper or something in between?
Yes, for the transfers that I use from the white toner printer, I will use a Teflon coated sheet, so it lifts off particularly clean. I use a wax paper sheet for the screen printing. It's just a gentler grab, I guess. And it ends up nice and matte. I don't want any shine to... it just ends up right. You have to cook out all of the water. You got to cook it all out. It's dry in like 30 seconds, but you got to leave it in there to like fully cure the acrylic that is in the water-based ink, so that like your shirt, your black shirts with the white bold print, or for anybody who's wearing a black shirt with a bold print on it, that plastic is fused to the shirt. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
It dyed the shirt a little bit. But more, it's like clinging. It's one of those pencil koalas from the past that just grips to the end of your pencil on the threads, and it is not letting go.
And so it cracks. Like it.
Of course, yes.
That's what'll happen. Yeah.
That's the problem. Plastisol, for all its virtues, is a solid layer. So when it breaks, when you stretch it, you'll see those cracks. Hopefully it'll snap back and it'll hold its image, but it will crack over time. The other thing that happens is when you're washing it, this is true for my white toner printer too, and why I started getting into breaking images up that have too much solid space in them to use halftones, just to make less solid space. The idea being that when you wash a shirt, water hits the back of your image, right? Or the front. And it has nowhere to go. If it's got a solid coat, water's just thwapping against the image on your shirt. It can't get through. So over time, if you've ever had a design on your shirt sort of wear out in a corner of the image, it's just water like trying to find a way through in the wash.
Erosion.
Yes. Water-based ink won't do that so much. It'll vintage like a little bit, but it really holds its character in the wash because water can just like push right through the image, which is nice.
So so what you'll do is you'll end up wearing your shirt out before you wear out the design with a water-based ink.
Totally.
That's interesting.
Yes. And Plastisol's not going anywhere. Like, as worn out as your shirt's going to get, the image will still be there. There's a reason Plastisol Ink shirts are all over vintage shops and thrift stores. It's because you can still see the stuff on them. They are mighty, but I think water-based is going to be... it just wins. I do think its big drawback, and you can work around it to some degree, is that it is harder to work with on dark shirts. And people really like to wear dark-colored t-shirts.
It's true.
Turns out, am in the minority of people who wear almost exclusively white tees. But...
that's gutsy stuff to wear white t-shirts, and
it's just, it looks right. I know by all the numbers I am supposed to like a black t-shirt, but every time I'm reaching for a white tee with something I like on it. Can't shake it.
Yeah, what got you into it? What sent you into the desert to make t-shirts?
Well, so March 2020. I kind of
lockdown.
Yeah, I kind of looked around and realized like I was going to have to find something else to do. And I think even knowing that, not having any idea how long things were going to be the way that they were, that it would probably be a good idea if I found something productive to do outside of stand-up anyway. I had been milking that udder a long time, and not enough milk to drink kept coming out. And I really loved milking it. Like, I loved the hours, the cow, the smells, but there was simply not enough milk in the bucket.
Is this an analogy that you weren't making a living?
I was poor. My teeth hurt. I've been poor for a long time. I am poor and 40. I am poor and 40 years old. So I started to take a look. And the job market seemed a little squishy, given that no one could leave their home. And not to completely, such an American move to immediately monetize an interest or a hobby, but when I looked at like, okay, I think I want to work for myself anyway. I think that's something I really love about stand-up. I sort of had the right opportunity after the album came out to take a swing. And I just thought, like... I love t-shirts. I get a little tunnel vision about what I'm wearing. I've always felt weird about getting dressed. I'm not good at it. T-shirts are a huge part of just how I feel comfortable moving around in the world. I always have a favorite one that I wear too much. I have a tattoo on my arm of me wearing, or it's a cat, wearing a black and white striped shirt and a yellow sweater because I wore that outfit into the ground. When I had more photos on Facebook, scrolling through my photos essentially looked like 2 or 3 very long days. And it would just be month-long periods in which I was only wearing this one thing. Like as in March 2020, it was this shirt from Cantor's, an amazing deli in LA. It's just a rad shirt of a lady holding a sandwich she's about to eat. And I wore it so often and started to get scared that I would ruin it. So I went back to Cantor's and bought it again. I have 2 of those. And I did that I had so many black and white black and white striped tees. And I would rank them like they had superiority in the drawer. I had strong favoritism happening. I really would lean toward one with the right cut. I had no idea what the right cut was. I have a better idea of what makes a good tea now. But I just realized this is something I really think. I love having a t-shirt I love. I think I'd be really happy if I could make tees that people were stoked to wear. Yeah. And looking at the startup costs of this business, it's a little bit more than a hot dog cart. Right. I've spent a lot of money to make a print shop, but I own all of the equipment in my print shop. And I'm really proud of the things they can produce. Yeah. And I'm an apprentice without a master, but I make shirts that I would be stoked to wear. All I wear are my own shirts. And I don't even think about being scared that I don't have something to wear. Yeah. And that feels so cool. Like if somebody came upon my site and found a shirt that made them feel good, that's a crazy feeling. That feels pretty cool to me. That's awesome. Investing in, worth learning a lot for. Okay. And honestly, it was art from one comedian. Greg Edwards is one of my favorite comics from the Bay in LA. Coolest dude. He's also an artist, a visual artist, and his art's incredible. And he was one of the first people I reached out to when I started printing stuff. And just now we're rolling out his release coming soon, which is super exciting on his own site. But I started making his shirts with the white toner printer, which has a lot of capabilities, but it was falling short, and I thought his art deserved better, so I learned how to screen print. Wow. It just had to happen. His stuff needs to be on tees. It looks right on white tees. They look so good. I should pull one out. I have my model wearing one. Hang on. I'll get it. Yep. Do it. But it was worth investing in, and they're about to come out. I keep seeing things become real as the shop continues to evolve. It's, you'll notice on my site, if you check out GuaranteeShirts.com, that I have a non-binary icon for a model. It's my skeleton, Leslie. Leslie looks like all of us on the inside, so I thought Leslie might be good as a model. That's sure a lot of backstory for a Home Depot skeleton, but hey, look, it really works. She fits in the photo box. There you go. Non-binary. Today, she's feeling she. So that is a print shirt from the Redline collection of Greg Edwards' work. Wow. Which, I am super excited about. How many colors is that? 3. So it's black, gray, and red. Okay. Yeah. So you do the gray. Right. Yeah. You had to screen the grays. Yeah. So you can do CMYK to recreate an image. If you need to, if it's got 15 colors in it, that's the only way you're going to do it. But Greg's work is primarily black, red, and gray. So I was able to isolate those 3 colors and tailor mix a red so that it was really deep and sharp, which is hard to do, combining magenta and yellow. Pick a gray, and there's kind of a different one for each one of his pieces that sets it off right, and use a nice rich black. So if you had an image, say, that was just green, purple, and gray, I'm not going to use CMYK for. I'm going to go ahead and just mix those 3 colors. Use a Pantone guide and find out which recipe works for your paints, and I mix up the colors with a little scale with bases. It's just got a creamy base paint that you just color up with your pigments. So yeah, if you've got 4 or less colors to work with, there's no need to go into the mania of CMYK recreation. But it is cool to know that, like, I just made a shirt for comedian Steph Tolev that I think had 14 total colors in it, that I just used by sort of combining halftones right.
Okay, and did you use the printer, or did you somehow use the 4? You had you have the 4 colors on the arms, and then you pull those screens out, add 4 more colors.
Oh, sorry, that was a CMYK screen print. So there were only 4 screens. I managed to make 14 colors by placing the halftones right, so that in some places, magenta and yellow combined to make red, and yellow and blue combined to make different greens.
Got it.
A wide range of greens. So, like, in that particular shirt, you can see Steph's sort of zombie face that's all yellow, and she's got green on her face, but some of it's highlights, some of it's shadows. So the highlights are smaller blue dots to make green dots, and then they're shadowy, larger blue dots that make green dots. So they look like a darker green. Yeah, it's cool to see it come together, and that one is the most... I made Steph's site, stephtolev.com. You can see a couple pieces of the kind of comic booky style that's fun to work in. What comic strip, I should say.
Right. So it's on her website, and you I'm digressing here, just a quick yes or no. Did you make her website?
I did.
You said? Okay, so you also make websites.
So when I was thinking about this whole t-shirt thing, I love t-shirts for me, but I also never figured out how to make t-shirts as merch, as a comedian. Merch is hard for comics. It's expensive. It's hard to get a return on in ways that people don't expect. So a big part of my business is helping sort of close that gap for comics now, helping comics who are like at the right point to maybe have a website if they didn't, or make their website a little bit cooler. Like I've stumbled around Squarespace enough to at least make one better if you didn't like yours.
Right.
And to get some t-shirts out.
Right.
So there are lots of ways to do it, but
it was part of a way to help the comics that you already are supporting and are working. Yeah, my thing with merch and t-shirts is that I don't want to sell a shirt that I wouldn't be willing to wear. That I wouldn't be excited to wear.
That's the thing about throwing up stuff. Like, there's lots of... I've bought shirts from, like, Threadless or Society 6, but it is hard to control the quality that your, like, fan gets. I don't think that's the same as, like... Man, you're a fan. Like, you did something for an artist. Like, it matters to me that when you open the bag, the shirt's folded right so that the image is staring right at you, that there's a little thank you note that, like... You know, you pull it out and you wear it. What good is it if it's a Gildan tee? I'm not coming for you, Gildan. I have worn many of your products over the years, but if it's like not a tee that looks or feels good, it's going to sit in a drawer.
It's not, I don't know if it's a Gildan soft, but there's a certain brand of Gildan that actually hangs correct on me.
Yes.
And that I actually do like. There's a Gildan cut that works.
For sure.
The shirts that I use for my merch are Bayside, because they're made in America.
Yes.
And I use the Bayside Union Made because they're the only Union Made that I've been able to find. And
I think that's the coolest. I wish, man, when I can afford those blanks.
Well, that's it.
It's a cruel twist of horrible capitalism that, like, that's aspirational, and it shouldn't be.
Right, because they're expensive. Each of these shirts, it's, and I don't make a lot of money on the shirts because I don't want to charge $1 million for the shirts, especially at shows. At shows, I want to charge $20.
Yeah.
Online, I charge $35. And the shirts themselves cost almost $11 each. And you can get shirts for $4 each.
Wait, just the blanks cost $11, right? Or your printed shirts?
No, the printed shirts are $11.
Okay. Wow. How many do you buy? We'll talk later.
I only get 100 at a crack.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't.
That's about closer. Okay.
Yeah, because if I had room to store them, because right now I have in my garage.
Oh yeah.
I have shelves of merch that needs to be moved. I have a Meat Shield t-shirt that Jenny Fine did the art on, and it's a charity shirt. It says in Latin, malice impedirect, Artemis impedirect. It means getting in the way of bad behavior. And then it has a June Cleaver image. And all of those shirts, all I take is the cost, right?
Right.
And I don't include the cost of what I pay for packaging. I've sort of rounded it up, and the shipping, and it's all very expensive. But I wanted to donate something back because we're living in a weird time. And so I have a lot of those shirts, and I don't do that bit anymore.
Right.
So it is, I'm bringing them this week. I'm going to Chicago. This will air afterwards. But I'm trying to bring them on the road more because people buy shirts on the road kind of more than they do over the internet. And then I have, I bought right in February of 2020, right before lockdown. It might have been in December, but it was right before lockdown. I got 2 new designs for what I thought was I was about to record a new album. One was the Squish with Whomever You Wish shirt, with the brawny paper towel guy and a Swiss Miss lady and a gummy bear, all hugging. And the other one is a bunch of quotes from my dad, Jenny Fine Again, doing the art, a drawing of my father. And those 2 shirts, I have almost all of them still. So it's just hard to, but the Bayside Union made, like I would, they're very thick, and so they last a long time. Some people like that sort of American. What was the one that was here with the elbow squeezer dude in L.A.?
Oh, American Apparel.
American Apparel. That dude.
American Apparel is the
he's the
now disgraced former everyone's favorite shirt. Right now, Bella Canvas is popular. They're made in L.A. I wish that I liked their shirts better. I think they're too thin, and they also have too slim a cut to be flattering. I mean, I sell as many 2 or 3 X's as I do smalls and mediums. So I just feel like the shirts have got to fit everyone.
Right, so what are you using? What are you using?
I use Next Level 3600. It is not a cool name, but I think it is a very cool shirt. I'm wearing one now. I think it's just got like little fashionable touches. Their hems are really nice and they're small, although I think big hems are coming. Mark my words, I think we're all going to want a chunky collared t-shirt within the next year. It's coming. I was right about the raglan cut, and this is coming, I'm telling you. But right now what's in is like a slimmer neckline, so not a chunky collar around the neck. But they've just got like little touches that feel right and feel like a crisp t-shirt. They also have a side seam, which is kind of a big deal.
That is a big deal.
So most tees for like any free tee you get, like a Gildan, is made with a tubular cut. And there are some days or some reasons why a tube cut really fits right, but that means it's just a giant tube of fabric that they sort of sleeves on.
Here's too much info for the Rangers. I'm about to show you that whatever this t-shirt, that whatever the Portland bookstore is using, it's got a seam. It's got a left seam.
Yeah. That's a nice tee, and it'll fit right. So the Next Levels are made with a side seam, which means that it's 2 panels that are sewn together in the middle, which means the front of the shirt can have a slightly different cut. And it's going to lay right. Sometimes tube cut shirts get a little wrinkled or weird coming out of the wash. They don't have a center structure to hold them together, so their fibers can get like sort of bent with wear and tear. But a tube cut, that's like slightly less likely to happen, and when it does, you can snap it back into shape. But it lays better, it looks better, and you don't know it, but when you pick up a tee and it's like, this feels expensive, it's probably a side seam shirt. That's what you're looking at.
Okay. What I want you to do is to talk to the Dork Forest listeners for a second while I go grab this shirt. I'm going to be right back.
Yeah. Well, sweet dorks, I'll tell you that I've missed Jackie Cation, and hearing her in audio form simply isn't enough, and the fact that you don't get to Zoom with her is a real shame, because she's honestly a treasure. And we went on tour together when my album went out. She came to the Bay Area with me, And she still talks to me, even though I got a little lost in the woods where there was no cell phone reception, and she very, very almost missed a flight out of SFO. So she's truly a friend. What? I didn't talk about that time you almost missed a flight because I got lost in the woods.
Oh,
When I
no
insisted
worries.
we stay at an Airbnb just so we didn't have to move hotels, but it meant every night was a long drive. Worth it? I don't know.
Worth it,
But that
worth
place was
it.
cute.
Here's the interesting thing. The Bayside is a tube.
Yeah.
There's no sightseeing.
I'm not surprised.
It's
kind of an issue that, like, yeah. I'm sorry.
That
Wait,
is
how many
interesting.
colors do you have printed on that one? 2, right? 3? Is that a 3-color print?
This is a
The Dork Forest
might
shirt?
be 4. It's the new Dork
Wow.
Forest shirt.
Oh, that looks sick. That's a 2-color print. That looks awesome.
But it's
No, 3.
actually another. Do you see that
You
accent
have
color?
black too. Yeah. With
The-
the white,
the-
I see white, green, and red, and maybe a black too. That
They're-
looks sick.
Oh yeah, that might be but it is plasticized. Except for, is it? It might be
it is.
a mix. It might be.
They're getting softer and softer. I can't come for Plastisol Ink. Honestly, it's the cleanup. It's so prohibitive. So for most comics, because of the issue that you have, where you have so many shirts that didn't sell, like you bought them for $13 a piece, and you're thinking, awesome, I'm selling these for 20 or 30 or whatever bucks. I'm gonna make so much money. You said, rubbing your hands together, until you have 4 extra smalls and like 3 mediums, and all anybody wants to buy is large. Like, there's always excess stock, and if you're shipping anything, it's really expensive. And this isn't pitch zone, but that sucks. It's not sustainable. So I tried to think about a way to not do that. So for a lot of screen printing and all of my white toner printing, I do it made to order. So the shirt is a little bit more, especially with multicolor screen prints. I could probably hit $13 depending, but...
Well, the weird thing, so the
in the end, I pay for all the shipping and stuff and just send you money when you sell your shirt, and you never have any, like, comics then don't have all this stock. And fans don't, like, it doesn't make any sense to do it that way. Yeah,
you're doing fulfillment.
I have the whole ass print shop.
Okay.
And it was exactly that reason that comics are spending, like, $1,000 to buy a stack of shirts, and, like, I know in my heart they're not... If they make that money back, that's like a reasonable goal for a merch investment. Making money on merch is a whole job. So I just tried to give myself that job.
But here, I mean, I will tell people that are fans of stand-up comedy and buy merch at shows, which I definitely.
Thank you.
You're doing, thank you so much. What you're doing is you're literally paying for lunch.
Yeah, you're feeding. That's food.
That's food. That's to and from the airport. That's gas money. You're literally
that's everything before you get the check at the end of the weekend.
Right.
And that check is spent. If you're me, that check has places to go.
Right. And if you get that check and you get to take all of it home, that's the bonus, right?
Yeah.
So that's fascinating that you're also doing, and so you're just printing them on demand to some extent, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, whenever I can.
You just use those words. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and whenever, like, some people buy more in advance because they're going on the road and they want a stack of shirts to sell, and then I'll take their shirts back when they get home and just sell them online to help sort of keep that inventory going. Yeah. But to me, it was like I just looked at all the things that made it impossible for me to do merch, and I tried to, like, sort of
troubleshoot that.
Get in the way, like, make it a little easier, because I really love doing this stuff, and merch is like, it's money. All comics need money, especially at the level I can do. Like, I'm not doing Stadium Comics merch. I'm not making Jeff Dunham shirts. Like, these are people I've known as I've worked in comedy for the last decade plus, like, and some will explode past my reach, where managers and producers take on the huge burden of their industrial merch production. But for the most part, this is real people who have real fans, and they need real money, and people are so excited to wear their shirt. And it's the more handmade it is, the more connected to the fan it is. This is for fans.
Yes, yes, very much so. And this is made, and it has sort of because of how heavy this shirt is, and
They're
because
so
of,
nice.
they're really nice, but they also have a bit of a, did you get that at Target kind of feel when, they don't have that sort of, but they're also, the designs aren't dumb, I mean,
Yeah.
and I mock openly a shirt Jake Johansson sells to this day, and it's a beautiful shirt. I think he still sells it, but it looks like the shirt itself cost $15 before it was printed, and then in an almost the same color, 2-color design, it's just a word that says "touch it." It's the dumbest
I do sort
fucking
of love
shirt.
That. Black on black looks so good.
It's almost
so
that. Good. I think it's maroon
white on white
maroon.
Also looks sick.
Yeah, and I just
okay.
And when I first saw it, I said, "What the hell is this?" And he said, "I have a mortgage. Leave me alone."
No kidding. It's like sell it. But
and his fans love it.
Yeah. I just wish he didn't have to buy a gazillion of those to sell to the people who want the maroon on maroon Jake Johansson shirt. Like, they exist. You're out there. But there's always going to be too many made. And I think it's prohibitive for a lot of comics that are on the climb. Features can sell tees. Like, if you've gone to a comedy show and you love the comic that performed before the headliner, that happens a lot. And they need a break. Like, I've been her. Like,
oh, yeah.
So her selling a t-shirt is a huge deal.
Right. Buy the features merch before you buy the headliners merch, just because they're making exponentially much less money. And they need it for gas and food more than the headliner does. And if you can run through all of their money, whenever anybody, like, I was at some club and I forget what I was doing. I think they said I couldn't. Oh, I know, it was Vegas. It was a horrible week in Vegas that I had. and the feature, the MC was selling a shirt, and it was terrible, but he asked me if he could sell, because that's what we have to do. We have to ask the headliner if we can sell. And I always say yes, because I know the price differential, the pay scale. And I said yes. And then that guy made fun of me for having said yes, because he had to ask. And I was like, what just happened? Now I want to say no. Can I take it back?
Yeah. And, it's, there's so many. It's nice that
the nuance of stand-up blows.
I'm so thankful for fans, but as in terms of my business, I kind of do get to pick, and I don't know that I would have made those MC shirts. Not to say, there's no club to get into, but it's nice, since I haven't seen anybody that I worked with in comedy for a year and a half, to reach out and be like, hey, I can make you a thing if you want. I think I can get pretty far just with the people I already know, and probably dorks in the Dork Forest already know, that are like sweethearts.
Yeah, that you want to work with. That's the great thing about having your own business here. Part of the last year and a half was
putting my feet on the ground. Like, in stand-up, it's feast or famine, right? You don't make enough, or you make kind of a lot. I feel like you are one of the few pioneers that, like, championed out, like, I don't know. To me, you seem so successful and comfortable in a way that didn't come with, like, the enormous Everybody Loves Raymond, where everything turns into sort of a comically large parody of what stand-up is. No kidding. I wouldn't have either. I'm just saying, like, I think you know how hard that path is, that, like, for a long time, and occasionally probably still in your comedy world, there are some gigs where, like, you're so happy to do them for the peanuts you get, and then some gigs where it's like, that took me 15 minutes, why did I get paid so much? Like, it's, it can be really unpredictable.
There's gigs that pay just okay, that I thought would be fun, that are a nightmare.
Yes.
And you're like, well, how did I not remember that the Tropicana in Las Vegas is probably dumb.
It's not worth the fuss. Yeah. I just thought, sort of finding another way to think about, like, what can I do that helps and also maybe is a way that I can earn something? I see, like, I can relax a little bit knowing I can, like, plan a different way to help that might get me paid a little bit. Not anything crazy, but, like, I'm kind of not waiting for my teeth to hurt or be able to replace them all with diamonds anymore. I think that I have a cool job that helps my friends, and I don't know if you can ask for much more in the midst of the world we currently find ourselves occupying. So yeah, more people need to buy shirts. Go to Guarantee Shirts. But it is really cool to see it all come together. And like, yeah, I mean, it's all, yes.
Are you doing any of the art?
Yeah. So I work with artists, and I have some designs that I made. But anything I get back from graphic designers I work with has this whole extra life to go through before it's ready to be on a surface. So some illustrations mine, but that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is taking things off a screen and getting them onto a surface, which is like a whole thing. And you heard about it with the bitmaps and all the lines and the dots. That's part of the process, but it's also conceptualizing a design from its origins so that it is designed for print. Looking at your Dork Forest shirt, that is such a clean, colorful design for a screen printer. That the bright, bold colors that don't overlap, they come so close together so you can really work with the precision, but your screens are going to be clean. That is a beautiful design for a screen printer. But they don't all come that way. So if I'm working with a crazy gradient and a bunch of colors touching each other, it's just like the surgery of getting that to work, figuring out what tool's going to make it feel the best on the tee. And it's like, I just keep getting excited about more ways to do stuff. And I finally have a tool collection, like, that I'm not at the end of its universe yet. There's still so much more I can do with 4 screens in one station. And I drool of having the giant pneumatic, spider-legged machine. It makes me feel crazy to think I know what to do with that. Like last year, I don't know what to do with it. This year, when I see one of those, I'm just like, oh, baby, cook it. I'm doing an underbase. I'm doing like, oh, I'm going to ghost out the black on that shirt and throw so many colors on that. It's crazy to think how fun this is when you learn it. So for now, I'm going to crank out a bunch of beauties on my little cutie machines, but I got eyes on how to do stuff.
On bigger machinery. Yeah.
Upgrade, and I really hope that my own tees, people love them so much that I need to get bigger tools, and I hope that comics want, like, so many fans go nuts over their adorable shirts that that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a weird place to find myself, and this stuff's so cool.
Yeah.
The zip-zop the squeegee makes on the screen, and the, like, getting a stencil right, you print it out in black on a transparency, and you put the screen over a little light box with its goo on it, and then you wash off all the goo that's not exposed, and then what's left. I mean, sometimes you get it entirely wrong, and welcome to your afternoon of cleaning. You're cleaning out your tub, you're cleaning your screen, you're starting all over again, you're waiting for it to dry, but then it works, and you're holding this thing up to the sun, and it's such an old way to do art. That for, like, literally thousands of years, people have held screens up to the sun and been like, did I get it? And, like, nah. Or, like, yeah. It's just...
That is awesome.
I haven't gotten to play much as a physical artist. It's cool.
That is awesome. Well, I think we end it there. It's been an hour, Caitlin Gill. Everyone, go to Guarantee Shirts and at least... Look at the work. Look at the work that it and we got a glimpse into. Gaze upon it. See if you like any of it.
She's back. Leslie, say goodbye to Jackie. Thank you for joining us and modeling the print shirt. You did a great job.
They are beautiful.
Leslie makes appearances in merch kitchen stuff too.
Yay!
Good job, Leslie.
You're doing great.
Well, thanks, dorks.
Thanks for being on the show. And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?